let us move on to the plan. Or do you want to do the MOU? Yeah. So Andy's going to lead us through this. After the last meeting, we broke off into a committee and spent a bunch of time working on this document. And we had, I think, there were a few lawyers there. My head hurt by the time I was done with it. But
Oh, you are?
anyway, we spent a while working on it, and Andy will take you through it now.
Sorry, folks, I'd be happy not to be standing up for the whole meeting, but sorry. Okay, so, as Frank mentioned, one of the things that you did see as the last document was the MOU on the one-stop operator, one-stop piece. And you gave some feedback and comments at that meeting. And then there was a work group that Frank put together at the recommendation of the board to further examine the document. And I think there were about 10 or 11 people that were involved, and I can't for the life of me tell you right now who was there because I'm just tired. But there were some people, there were SWIB members, obviously, it was the SWIB members that participated. Anyway, so again, I'm walking you through, it's this document that's the actual document, and the other piece, which is just my scribbles. So why were we doing an MOU? I'm not sure. Why were we doing an MOU? Basically, so it requires, the state workforce development, the WIOA law requires the board, with the agreement of the governor, to designate a one-stop operator oversee the one-stop delivery service. The purpose is to designate VDOL as the operator and provide administrative, operational, and fiscal support to the SWIB. Again, I mentioned to you that under the WIA, Vermont has been for decades a single state area because of our size. That does not change. And VDOL has operated in the capacity as the state's workforce administrator with the authority to receive, administer, and report on the federal workforce investment funds and program activities. Now, one thing I want to say is that in essence, we have operated as your one-stop operator, delivery system operator, but it does not mean that we are the exclusive partner. It's, we have all the partner organizations, and you will see as we talk later on today about the state plan, Vermont is filing what they call a unified state plan. Interestingly, just yesterday afternoon, I was on a federal conference call on WIOA again, and the states are about equally split because our options were a unified state plan or a combined state plan. And my understanding from the feds yesterday is that the states across the nation are about equally split with those filing a unified plan or a combined plan. You're going to hear more about that later. We are doing that. But what basically it says is that somebody has to be authorized to operate the state's delivery system. The task for the operator is to coordinate the service delivery of the one-stop partners and service providers within the AJC. The AJC is what the feds call American Job Centers. We here in Vermont call them our Career Resource Centers. We have 12. The Department of Labor has 12 Career Resource Centers. Technically, there are 12 AJCs. And technically, we align those directly with the Agency of Human Services delivery, 12 delivery operation sites. So we are aligned up exactly with the Agency of Human Services, which is a good thing. That's what the feds would want, and that's how the VDO, Department of Labor has already always operated. We serve as the fiscal and operational agent for the one-stops. We conduct monitoring and oversight of the system, and we develop policies and procedures to comply with federal law. That's all things that we do and have continued to do. That would be a one-stop operator obligation. I don't know what that is. Okay. Hold on. So one of the things is that somebody has to take responsibility for doing things like developing MOUs for the SWIB with the required partners. So this is really interesting. I think an interesting piece is that under WIOA, they want us to share data, education, voc rehab, labor, other groups, partner groups. They want us to share data. They want us to help co-case manage for individuals. They want us to share infrastructure, including the costs if necessary, although nobody's gone there yet. My understanding from my two-day meeting in Boston is that no state has gone to discussing infrastructure costs because they feel like everybody will run away from the table when you do that. But what they want us to do, think about the whole thing under WEO, is that they're looking towards serving the individual. So what is basically, they want us to get more streamlined in things like common intake forms, co-case management, service, identifying needs for people, those things that are there, best meets the client's needs. Also that we ensure all individuals, including people with disabilities and other barriers to employment, that they have appropriate access to resources and service through the whole system, including access to technology and materials. So this basically is saying, if we find that we are not serving people, all Vermonters or people with disabilities or other barriers, that we're supposed to work towards getting that done. So I think one thing that you should know is there's a lot of work going on now with the partner agencies, including, folks who are here. I don't know, is anybody here from TANF today? Or Reach Up ESD? We've been working very closely, I think all of us have, with what we know are organizations, at least within state government, also outside of state government. So we're really trying to ensure that we're moving this system to what the feds are anticipating. Coordinating services and delivery strategies to enhance services for employers. So one of the things that we've been talking about, for example, is what's the system that we might use to record employer contacts and share employer information, because we presume that most employers here don't want to be having your door knocked on 20 times a week by different entities. So we're trying to work on those kinds of conversations about, and then services to employers. So, if we're going to be doing a program, with the veterans, if we're going to do a veterans career fair, how do we all support that effort to ensure that the employers are involved and the partner organizations, not just labor, that would include all the partner organizations here that may have some interest in participating. Again, enhanced services to employers. I think I didn't count this, but somebody else did, and they told me that somewhere in the WEOA document that the term business services is repeated thousands of times. So it is that's somewhat of a change, I think, from the WEA law, that I think there's an enhanced focus on services to employers. So again, we're supposed to ensure that we're aligning resources, services, and data, try to help reduce duplication, maximize funding. That means go chase the money, chase federal dollars, chase grants, and maximize staff and resources. So some of what we're doing now is we're talking about, they expect us to make sure that all of our staff are familiar. You don't have to be an expert, that you're familiar with other people's programs, and identify and recruit new partners and resources. So if we have a gap in the system, we're supposed to be talking together to figure out, as partner agencies within the one-stop system, who can fulfill that, or do we need to create somebody? Do you create a program? Creating the effective MOUs, measure performance, handle and resolve complaints with the grievance procedure. You'll see the grievance procedure. I don't know if you've seen that already.
Yeah, you gave it to us.
You did, thank you. So you've seen that. It's a federal required document, quite extensive. So we have to handle the complaints for that come in through the one-stop system. And then we have to review Title I performance measures. And that's basically under the WEOA money that comes to the Department of Labor. Some other things would be, if there are regulations that need policies, we would draft those to bring to you as the board, and MOUs with one-stop partners. That could be anything from infrastructure to data sharing to co-case management. Negotiate with USDOL on applicable programs. Again, I write Title I because this involves Title I money. It does not involve Title II, 4. I'm looking for help over here. And prepare the state plan with our partners and convene stakeholder system. I am going to talk a little bit about convening other interested parties and stakeholders on the plan document, the full plan document in a minute. And I just want to get through this. Receive and transfer, drawing down the federal WIOA Title I money. Ensure that we don't squander it away. Respond to federal audit and financial requests, perform accounting, and prepare documents and reports. There are a lot of federal reports. I mean, I think all of us that live, your Department of Labor here in Vermont, Vermont Department of Labor, is 92% federally funded. So we live in the world of the federal government all day long, every day, and every program has its own structure of federal auditors and federal rules and all of that. So it is complicated at best, annoying at worst. But anyway, those are the tasks for the operator. Did I get through? I did. Okay, thank you. Any questions for me?
Yeah, so we have a draft document which was, we didn't give you a red line one on what you had before, but it was redlined quite a bit. So that is our second handout. It is a 5-page document. The governor will, so we're basically approving this to recommend to the governor, right? That's the procedural portion. So he gets last say on the document.
Question, was the committee unanimous on their approval of?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you
Great.
hear that?
Did everyone hear?
No.
That he asked, was the committee unanimous on our edits and proposed changes, and the answer is yes.
Make a motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve.
I have a question first.
Sure.
So this, working with our previous document, like how do we make sure there's language in here that supports moving forward what we just said before, like Jen and I, like providing all that data?
Mm-hmm.
Can you say that again, Mike? I'm sorry.
It's like
What's
providing all
the
the
follow
data.
through on the?
Yeah, it's like linked
yeah.
to conversations
Yeah.
together, like where's the statement in here that says you're gonna provide, you're accountable to, and it says it indirectly in some spots, but ensuring that this document
Yep.
is essentially Article 2 duties, like you guys are gonna provide all that information to us.
I'd have to go searching this, but
Probably under the operator duties.
yeah, I'm looking. for
Staff
it.
duties,
Yep.
Article 5.
Yep.
I'm sorry,
It's
yeah.
Article 4 and
Page
5,
3.
basically.
Yeah, 4 and 5, right.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah. So your question, Mike, is, so if the board is responsible for the work, this really, the answer is, and to recommend, the question is, on a day-to-day basis, who carries out some of this stuff on title? Because, let me say two things. One is, this governance document includes not just Department of Labor work, this broader view of which the SWIB has to comply is for the whole system. It's for not just for the WIOA Title I, but it actually talks about the work for both rehab and agency of education, adult ed. So this is a bit broader. This just talks about the Title I funding that gets drawn down, which is money that comes to the Department of Labor for WIOA dislocated worker, adult, and youth. So those are the three funds that this operator funding, that this document says DOL can serve as your one-stop, and I don't want to say only, that's not the only point. The other point is basically it says that on behalf of the board, it does respond to the Title I money, and then also addresses things, the administrative work of this board. So, for example, preparing the state plan, not that, and not that we did this by ourselves, but ultimately it is labor that's responsible to get the things done and in the system. For the MOUs that have to get done by this board with some of the partners, somebody has to do that on behalf of, well, I mean, shouldn't say that. You could put together a committee to write MOUs for the board with partner organizations. But what this document says is that the Department of Labor will do that on your behalf. Obviously, we can't sign those MOUs for you. Frank has to sign those MOUs, but somebody has to do all that preparation. So Dirk Anderson, Vermont Department of Labor's General Counsel, has been writing MOUs for data exchange with the Agency of Education. And we've got another one we're working on. We're doing MOUs with Diane and other folks from VR and other groups. So this basically says it's an administrative and fiscal function for the board.
I get that, but how does it relate in a nutshell? I don't know enough about this document we just approved.
So maybe I'm looking at page 3, Article 4, the last, it's not really a bullet. Operators shall make available to State Workforce Development Board sufficient information for the State Workforce Development Board to oversee the one-stop delivery system and ensure appropriate use, management, investment of funds that maximize performance outcomes, and maybe something, and other information as needed to adequately perform the duties of the State Workforce Development Board, something like that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, you got that written down?
Sure.
Pat's writing that down.
So we have an amendment?
So Pat will read what she writes it down. Again, she's gonna read it as an amendment.
Under section 4?
Under section 4.
Yeah.
What?
And it basically, and other information needed to carry out the duties of the work.
Dirty
the
duties.
dirty duties.
Dirty duties of working on
Dirty
this
duties
one.
of the State Workforce Development Board.
We'll get that.
Do we have somebody getting?
I think that would cover, Pat, my concern. I don't know who else in the state's got the capacity really to do this well and be up to speed to do this, but I wanna make sure somehow that in our capacity as SWIB, whatever we're gonna be, that we can urge the, one-stop overseer to make sure to reach out more broadly to other partners, not just the ones in the unified plan. And I'm not sure how labor, it's almost like when Reach Up became Reach Up, everybody had to be retrained to think like it. And I'm just wanting to make sure that the wealth of connections that are right here can somehow be exploited.
Annie is gonna address that.
Just, can I go back to that in a second, Lynn?
Dan had it.
Yeah, and I apologize, I hadn't read this before I came here. I withdraw my statement that we're an advisory board, because when I read this, it sounds like we are blessing you with, go forth and do
No, that's
what
true.
this board is
This is
responsible
true.
for.
Yeah.
And when I read this does not sound like an advisory board.
This,
I'm a little confused
Dan,
about what the responsibilities of this board
This
are.
says it
for
relates
this
to
piece-
one stop.
For this
Yeah.
piece, you're absolutely true. The State Workforce Board has to designate the one-stop operator. For that piece, you're true. In terms of things more broadly, such as, a full drawdown of federal dollars, I think that is, like, and the state plan, that is to recommend approval to the governor. But this, you're absolutely correct, good eagle eye, I should have said that. This document, this board does get to designate, and you have to designate the one-stop operator piece to say the governor, we designate DOL for one-stop operation.
So what's the fiscal responsibility we're designating? I mean, you don't set your budget, that's done at the state level, or?
Oh, well,
Federal, state.
We're such a mix.
Yeah.
Mike's question is how do you, what's the authority in terms of designating the budget? Yes and no. We propose, we have to go to accept our, we submit our budget, actually to Kathy Keenan and company, hi Kath, to the Appropriations Committee, but we have to propose, we have to propose, the state portion of that, which is about 7%. So, we tell them what we anticipate that we're receiving for federal dollars. We have to report to them at budget adjustment time if we've lost federal dollars or if we've overexpended anything, of course, which we have not. So does that answer?
Yeah, I just wanna understand what we're approving.
So, okay, so you would basically be approving DOL's 12 to operate the career centers, to draw down Title I money, which for dislocated workers, adults, low-income adult Vermonters, at-risk youth, you'd be designating DOL to operate the centers on behalf of the state to draw federal money down for those operations.
What's the rough dollar amount of that?
We draw down about 5 to 6. Is it 5 or 6 million of those? Now there's also opportunity. I want to say that's about it, but we also, in a situation like we can draw additional federal money under a national emergency grant, which don't use the word emergency necessarily as which can be a true emergency, but we can ask for supplemental money. And an emergency can be a dislocation of 100 employees or more in a region. So the money that we get, Mike, is year to year. It's been relatively consistent. It went down for a period of years. Blessedly, the past few years, it's been somewhat consistent. Not gone up, but pretty consistent for us for those programs. But we can petition to draw additional federal dollars down, but it has to be in response to a specific issue.
Frank, not to split hairs, but on the last page 9, isn't there just, or page 5, the governor has to sign it.
Yeah.
So if the governor chooses not to sign it, we're still just making a recommendation, is that correct? It's up to the governor to either say, I can accept it, put my signature here, or go back and take another recommendation.
Governor has been in consultation, well, his staff, with Annie and working with the attorneys on this.
I'm just trying to get the point.
In
It's a
his different
recommendation.
agencies and departments. So
Okay.
he is engaged.
He is engaged.
Yeah.
So I'm still confused, on it, advising versus being held accountable. Let me just go in a different direction. One of the things on this particular document says that, that Vito will comply with state and federal laws and you won't comply. Let's just pretend you don't do compliance right, okay? Something very bad happens. Who's accountable? This board? The state?
You would be accountable only if you didn't act on it. So for example, if we were to decide in our 12 career resource centers that we were not going to serve veterans, we have a veteran priority of service under Wagner Pizer. If we were to decide we don't want to see anybody over the age of 50, if we were to engage in a really bad act, and this board did not take action to recommend to the governor to take away the authority as the one-stop operator, that would be the governor could then
So the
say.
federal government in that situation, I'm making this up because I don't really know, comes after someone with a major fine. Who's paying the fine? Department of Labor, the state government, or all of us get to divide by 40?
No. State of Vermont.
Well, no, I think this is a really important.
Yeah, ultimately,
point.
the
I don't
governor
wanna
is the
split hairs, but
signatory that matters.
I think going
Yeah.
back to,
Yeah.
are we an advisory
Yeah.
council, or are we more like a classic board, is a very important thing to define, and I keep feeling like we're
We are,
back and
yeah.
forth and back and forth, and that makes a big difference.
The prescriptive duties and responsibilities from the federal government are that the governor has to set up this board to recommend to him, but it is the governor and the administration that's responsible, the state of Vermont.
But it does ask for the one-stop operator for the SWIB to designate the one-stop operator. So it's a little bit of a mix, but ultimately, since the governor is part of the, is signing for this, I do believe, I agree with Frank, I think ultimately nobody here has to worry about being personally sued for this activity.
I don't think it's about being personally sued, but like, someone screws up, you, staff,
Yeah.
we don't have any control over that or insight to it. You don't, okay, we're not supporting veterans anymore, someone makes that decision, just runs with it, it's front page of the paper. They find out, like, we give the authority to the board, now all our names are going to the Free Press front page. These are the people that are responsible for putting you in charge, which we have no authority over, for making these decisions. we're gonna all point to Frank and be like, his signature.
It was his
signature.
signature.
It wasn't us.
I think the obligation at that point might
But, like,
basically be
that's
for the, for
very
the
real.
script to say to the governor, you know, or for Frank to write and say, we think that the authority for the operation should be removed. That, right, they would to recommend to the governor to rescind the authority for labor to have that. So we recommended Department of Labor, but now we think they should be.
So that would be a follow-up action in the event of something bad happening.
I mean, what do we want this, do we want this to be an advisory board, period? Or more?
I mean, I think the feds feel as though that you have to do a lot of work. So I mean, I don't, you know, the governor ultimately has authority in so much of this, but I think a lot of the Wheeler law says, and the board shall recommend, or the board shall do these tasks and then shall recommend, so, or shall designate. So, you know, ultimately, it's like you say X, and then the governor gets to stamp it yea or nay, but it is asking the board to make some decisions, but then, it's like making a decision which is ratified by the governor, if that helps.
But is there any alternative to appointing the Vermont Department of Labor to be overseeing the one-stop delivery system? I mean, it's kind of a given, isn't it?
Yeah, there isn't today.
There isn't any other alternative, so.
Well, I mean, you know, I mean, I could say to you, sure, I mean, you could construct some other infrastructure to run the system, and the programs. It's not per se a give, it's not per se a given, it would just basically be, you gotta figure out who and what that would be and what it would look like.
That would probably come out of reorganization of the legislature,
Well,
you know,
that's what I'm saying,
reorganizing
it's not
government.
likely to happen.
Yeah.
That would be.
But that's a good point.
I would just, to this question, I mean, I think our role is advisory to the governor with the possible exception of designating the one-stop. And because if something goes truly wrong at the department's gonna get whacked by USDOL, or the state of Vermont's gonna be whacked by USDOL. But if it gives some comfort to this board, I would think general counsel or the attorney general's office could easily provide an advisory opinion that would give some comfort here as to what the extent of liability might be, because I don't think it's ever, I mean, number one, I don't think the department's ever royally screwed up, which is a beautiful thing, so, there's never been sanctions, if you will, that at least I'm aware of in the time I've been paying attention, so, I mean, I don't think it would ever fall downhill, if you will, to this board, but maybe that's one thing Dirk could render an opinion as to, you know, really where we stand, but it would seem to me that we wanna be advisory. And let's say, for example, we advise to the governor that X happens, and if the department doesn't carry that out for some unknown reason, it still gives us the power to go to the governor and say, you have empowered us in this advisory role, so we want you to take some action, because the governor ultimately oversees all of us in state agencies, and it's ultimately his or her hide that's on the line, when we don't perform, so.
This is a related but a different twist, and that is, I think the law provides huge opportunity to do it better. And what I'm wondering is how we do that work. I mean, I think that's related to the questions. What is the information we will get from whom and what way? And how do providers work regionally? How does this board oversee? I mean, one of the questions would be if the one-stop's no longer admitted veterans over the age of 50, double me, how would we even know that?
Mhm.
And what the impact is in the local regions of those decisions being made? And I think that there are a lot of people, it's been said by lots of others, that are really interested, really engaged in developing a really innovative, responsive, and effective workforce development system for the state. And so, how does a group of 40 people representing all kinds of perspectives do something that's valuable?
So, two things. One is, just to respond to how would you even know, I mean, it is expected that we report, in the aggregate, obviously, but complaint issues, I don't mean, we are required to talk to the board about complaints that are coming in. And the complaint logs are required to be kept in each office. I think you guys, I'm looking at VR and AOE for that money, and I think you guys have complaint procedures that you're working on. So we have complaint information, that's just very specific.
Yeah, I
to that
didn't need to
question.
focus on the negative here.
No,
Yes.
I just wanted to let you know, we are required to do that, can report out that. And I think that you're absolutely right, that for as much as painful as this process has been in terms of launching WIOA at different points, whether it was getting the youth thing up and running, the ETPL up and running, the state plan, all these MOUs, which have just basically, had us so focused on getting this stuff done. I agree with you, Pixie. I think most of what WIOA did, I agree with. I have to say, despite my thoughts that I was going to completely hate the thing, I really actually don't. I think it does present a lot of opportunity along the challenges, but I do think where they were going, which was to say, focus on the person and streamline things and avoid duplication. I agree with all of that. But I think committee work will be really important for this board.
Are you ready to move this?
One last
With the
question.
amendment.
The law says that we have to give this authorization.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Somebody has to
All right.
get
Good.
designated.
That's just, all right.
Good. So if you're ready.
And that's with the amendment, right?
We are now,
Pat's amendment.
Mayor Luris correctly pointed out that now that we've adopted these governance, we have to go around the room, state your name and say aye or no, because this is a public meeting. And anytime a public body does a vote, when you're doing a teleconference, this is how you have to do it. So I'll start. Frank Coffey, aye.
Do you want to start with those amendments?
Just the amendment, correct?
No.
This is,
The MOU.
we'll vote as Pat recommended. Is that okay
Assuming
to
the
the
mover
proposal?
accepts the friendly amendment, right?
Jerry?
Yes, I do accept it.
Yes.
Okay.
As amended. I apologize. Aye.
Aye.
Oh, yeah,
Jerry Ghazi, aye.
Judith Geiger, aye.
Pat Moulton, aye.
Dennis Labonte, aye. Sean Woodruff, aye.
Mike Lane, aye.
Tom Longsmith, aye.
Pixie Loomis, aye.
Representing House Owen, aye.
Lynn Vera, aye. Pat Elmer, aye.
Grant Spade, aye.
Robert Bridges, aye.
Joan Walsh, aye.
Kristen Morris, aye.
All right, on the phone?
Folks on the phone, would you like to vote and say your name and aye or nay?
Are they members?
Say, can you speak up really loudly?
Scott Giles.
Scott Giles, aye, okay.
Chris Loso, aye.
Chris Loso, aye.
Vincent Toledo, aye.
Tristan Tolino, aye.
Aye.
Who was the last vote?
Marty Barrett.
Marty? Aye. Anybody else on the phone? Okay.
Tom Alderman, aye.
No.
Okay.
All right, thank you. It's open meeting law in Vermont, it's a public meeting. We have to
Thank you,
do
Mayor
that.
Loris, for that good advice, thank you.
So, all right, can we
Okay.
take a 5-minute
Yes.
comfort break? And we'll be right back and we'll wrap